Go ahead.
Will the Zoom host please start the webinar?
Webinar started.
Good morning and welcome to the New York City Hybrid Hearing on the Committee on Land Use. Please silence all electronic devices at this time. There will be no food or drink in this committee room. Also, please do not approach the dais. If you have any questions, please raise your hand, and one of us, the Sergeant at Arms, will kindly assist you. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation. Chair, we're ready to begin.
All right, good morning and welcome to the Committee on Land Use. I am Councilmember Rafael Salamanca, I chair this committee. I would like to welcome my esteemed colleagues who have joined us today. We've been joined by Councilmember Omoya, Rivera, Chair Riley, Majority Whip Brooke Powers, Abreu, Majority Leader Farias, Hanks, and Borelli. At today's meeting, we will hold a hearing on proposed legislation Intro 952, a bill sponsored by Council Speaker Adrian Adams to address the city's efforts around expanding affordable home ownership opportunities. But before we get started at this hearing, the committee will vote on a number of items voted out of our subcommittees. As always, I want to thank Chair Riley and Chair Hanks for their work as our zoning and landmarks chairs. Today, we will vote to approve with modifications LUs 138 and 139 for the 31-17 12th Street rezoning proposal related to property in Councilmember Caban's district in Queens. The proposal including a zoning map amendment and related zoning text amendment to facilitate the development of a new residential building with approximately 35 units, of which 9 would be affordable. A modification would be to add the deep affordability option to go along with MIH option 1. We will also vote to approve LUs 145 and 146 for the 21st Street rezoning proposal, which is located in Councilmember Caban's district. The proposal includes a zoning map and zoning text amendment, which together will facilitate the development of a new mixed-use building with approximately 55 apartments, with 24 to 28 of those units anticipated to be affordable units. We will also vote to approve the modifications LUs 140 related to 250 86th Street rezoning proposal in Councilmember Brandon's district in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. The proposal consists of a zoning map amendment which will facilitate the legislation of a doctor's office within an existing building. A modification will change the proposed R6B designation to an R5D designation and will also modify the boundaries of the proposed new district. These modifications will ensure the rezoned area remains contextual with the existing surrounding building. Councilmember Brandon supports this proposal as modified. As Chair Riley indicated in our zoning subcommittee, I'll note that LUs 141, originally included as part of the 86th Street rezoning proposal, was withdrawn by the applicant in writing on September 17th. Pursuant to the Council Rules 11.60B, the application under LUs 141 is void, and I now make a motion pursuant to Council Rules 7.90 to file LUs 141 and remove it from the Council's calendar. We will also vote to approve LUs 143, an application submitted by the Department of Housing and Preservation and Development related to the Malcolm Shazam Harlem Plaza project in Councilmember Salam's district in Manhattan. The proposal consists of a request for Urban Development Action Area designation and Urban Development Area project approval and the related disposition of city-owned property. The action will facilitate the construction of a new mixed-use building, which will provide approximately 108 affordable housing units through HPD's Extremely Low and Low Income Affordability Program, ELA, and provide for the renovation of the Malcolm Shazam Harlem Market. We will also vote to approve LUs 144 for the designation of the Williamsbury Hart Historic District in Councilmember Osei's district in Brooklyn. And finally, we will vote to approve LUs 147 related to an Article 11 tax exemption request for a residential development at 281-311 Marcus Garvey Boulevard, also within Councilmember Osei's district. The tax exemption will facilitate the development of 2 new affordable housing buildings with a total of approximately 155 units. I would now like to recognize any of my colleagues who have any questions or comments. I want to also recognize that we've been joined by Deputy Speaker Ayala and Councilmember Hudson. I now call for a vote with the support of the local members to approve LUs 143, 144, 145, 146, and 147, to approve in modifications LUs 138, 139, and 140, and to file LUs 141. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning, William Martin, Committee Clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on Land Use. All items are coupled. Chair Salamanca.
Aye and all.
Moya.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Rivera. Riley.
Aye.
Brooks Powers.
I vote aye on all.
Abreu.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Abreu. Farias.
I vote aye on all.
Hanks.
Aye on all.
Hudson.
Aye.
Sanchez. Borelli.
Aye.
By a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstentions, all items have been adopted as described by the chair.
I want to thank the Sergeant at Arms and the public for attending this voting hearing. We will now take a 5-minute recess, and we will begin the hearing in 5 minutes.
Do we have anything on the speaker bill? Is it in here? I can't find it in. Yeah, because I don't, because it should be here. I'm looking, I didn't see it. Yeah, no, right. No, I want to see what the. Oh, no, no. I just want the bill. Yeah, it has a password on it. I don't know if anybody'd be like, I need to steal that. Okay. He sure did. One word. That's crazy and really. Invalid. Please try again. Thank you. I'm sorry. you come to Staten Island, I can return the favor.
All right, welcome back. I would like to recognize that we've been joined by Speaker Adrian Adams, and we've also been joined by Councilmember Pereira Sanchez. And now we will move on to our hearing regarding Intro 958, which, as I mentioned, is sponsored by Speaker Adrian Adams and seeks to increase affordable homeownership opportunities across the city. The benefits of homeownership are well documented and include greater stability for families and neighborhoods, as well as the opportunity for intergenerational wealth building. However, access to home ownership in New York City remains profoundly unequal. While approximately 33% of New York households citywide own their home, only 28% of Black and 17% of Hispanic Latino households are homeowners. This ongoing disparity reflects a legacy of racial discrimination from the days of redlining to more recent predatory lending and speculative practices like deed theft. In this context of persistent inequality, New Yorkers seeking to become homeowners face growing challenges. The city's median home price has more than doubled since 2000 when adjusted for inflation and now stands in over $700,000. The lack of affordable homeownership opportunities is one of the prime factors driving more and more working and middle-class families to leave New York. The council is seeking all available policy tools to increase access to homeownership. The Department of Housing Preservation and Development, HPD, has devoted significant resources to the preservation of affordable homeownership units, which account for nearly 35% of counted preservation units since 2014. However, in the new construction, HPD has overwhelmingly allocated resources to development of affordable rental apartments, with the agency's open data showing that fewer than 3% of the new construction units since 2014 are homeownership units. Intro 958, which would require HPD to approximately double this rate of new available homeownership construction as a minimum baseline going forward. At this hearing, the council looks forward to learning more from HPD about the agency's approach to supporting homeownership and gathering further feedback from housing advocates and the public on the proposed framework, and any additional ideas on how to achieve its intended goals. Before we begin today's hearing, I remind everyone that this meeting is being held in hybrid format, and members of the public may view a live stream broadcast of this meeting at the council's website. Members of the public who wish to testify may do so either in person or via Zoom. Those wishing to testify by Zoom must register online at the New York City Council website at www.council.nyc.gov/land use to sign up. For those of you here in person, please be sure to see one of the Sergeant at Arms to prepare and submit a speaker card. We will limit public testimony to 2 minutes per witness. If you have additional testimony or if you have written testimony you would like to submit, we ask that you please email the land use testimony at council.nyc.gov, and please include the phrase Intro 958 in the subject line of your email. Lastly, I would like to remind everyone that this is a government proceeding, and decorum must be observed at all times. Members of the public are asked not to speak during the meeting unless you are testifying. The witness table is reserved for people who are called to testify, and no video recording or photograph is allowed from the witness table. Members of the public may not present audio or video recordings or testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing's record. Before we bring up the speaker and we bring up the HPD, we just want to roll back and allow Councilmember Pereira Sanchez to vote.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you, Chair. Aye on all.
Thank you. The vote is currently at 10 in the affirmative.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Kim Darga and Ahmed Tigani, appearing on behalf of HPD, to the witness table. And I will, before we ask for them to administer the oath, I would like to allow Speaker Adrian Adams to opening testimony.
Thank you so much, Chair Salamanca. Good morning, everyone. I thank the chair for leading today's Committee on Land Use hearing, which includes my bill, Introduction 958. It is legislation to increase the number of home ownership opportunities created by our city for New Yorkers. And thank you to everyone who's joined us here today. Affordable home ownership is key to promoting stable and economically healthy communities. It is integral to keeping working and middle-class families in our city, especially at a time when it has become increasingly harder for them to remain here as a result of housing and child care-related pressures. I was fortunate enough to grow up in Hollis, Queens, in a home. And when it was time for my husband and me to put down roots and raise our own family, we chose Jamaica, Queens. And that's where we bought our home. We raised our family there, and 35 years later, we are still there. Homeownership paved the pathway for us to stay in our community and to be a part of investing in our community. That was the case for many families in my native Southeast Queens, and it's why I have advocated to protect and expand home ownership opportunities for New Yorkers who want to stay in their neighborhoods. However, it has become far too unattainable for families to access similar opportunities previously afforded to live in this city and buy a home. The city's median home price has more than doubled since 2000 when adjusted for inflation, and now stands at over $700,000, putting home ownership out of reach for the majority of New Yorkers. The lack of affordable home ownership opportunities is pushing more and more working and middle-class families to leave this city that they love. This is leading us to lose the strength that diverse families contribute to our city. Access to home ownership remains profoundly unequal based on race. While 42.5% of white households in New York City own their homes, only 28.3% of black households and just 16.7% of Latino households are actually homeowners. These persistent disparities reflect the legacy of discrimination, including practices such as redlining that perpetuate wealth gaps that impact our city to this very day. Our city's black population has declined by nearly 200,000 people over the past 2 decades, and the lack of opportunities to own a home is a major factor. It is deeply alarming. Neighborhoods in Southeast Queens, Central Brooklyn, and the Bronx have been havens for home ownership that supports closing wealth gaps and mobility for working families, yet we are losing this. To ensure that our communities thrive, with the dream of owning a home remaining a possibility for residents today and for generations to come, our city must do better. Part of the solution is my bill, which aims to at least double the pipeline of affordable home ownership opportunities throughout the city. We must dedicate more resources to build more affordable homes, support first-time home buyers, and ensure homeowners can remain in those homes. Introduction 958, which I first outlined in my State of the City address this year, would require the Department of Housing Preservation and Development to double its current rate of affordable home production, including new single-family, two-family, multifamily, co-ops, and down payment assistance programs. It would also require that at least half of the subsidized homeownership units be newly constructed, in addition to the conversion of rental units into homeownership opportunities and down payment assistance programs. Today, I look forward to hearing about the city's approach to creating new homeownership opportunities, how this legislation will impact that approach, and other feedback from our stakeholders. Thank you, Chair Salamanca. I now turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Speaker Adams. Now we're going to bring up the HPD panel. I'm going to ask that the committee counsel please administer the oath.
Panelists, would you please raise your right hand and state your name for the record?
Kim Darga.
Ahmed Tigani.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee and in answer to all council member questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, and you may begin.
Good morning, Speaker Adams, Chair Salamanca, and members of the New York City Council Committee on Land Use. My name is Kim Darga, Deputy Commissioner of the Office of Development at the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development. I'm joined by Ahmed Tigani, First Deputy Commissioner and Chief Diversity Officer of HPD. Thank you for the opportunity to testify about Intro 958. Based on findings from the 2023 New York City Housing and Vacancy Survey and other available data, this council made a determination last spring that the city remains in a state of housing emergency. Almost all New Yorkers are deeply impacted by the shortage of available low-cost and affordable housing, most acutely on the rental side. We know from the 2023 New York City HVS that our city net rental vacancy rate was the lowest in decades at only 1.4%. It is even lower amongst the lowest cost rentals for homes below $1,100. It was just 0.4%. Median asking rent was $3,000 per month, almost double median rent citywide. Median renter household income was $70,000, much less than the $120,000 that a household would need to be able. Sorry, yeah, I got the mask on today. Median renter household income was $70,000, much less than the $120,000 that a household would need to be able to afford a $3,000 apartment. 43.1% of renter households in New York City are rent burdened, and 25% are severely rent burdened, a primary indicator of financial instability. And since 1993, we have lost 600,000 low-cost rental homes. New Yorkers are struggling to remain stably housed and provide for their families. 13.7% of renter households had been late on rent at least once in the last year. 16.4% of renters were food insecure, and 6.4% were very food insecure. Over 100,000 New Yorkers are in DHS shelter. Many New Yorkers are looking for help. HPD receives approximately 450 applications per rental home on Housing Connect, an indication that New Yorkers overwhelming need for affordable rental housing. We at HPD are charged with addressing the root causes of this crisis. We are marshaling all of the local, state, and federal resources available. This summer, we announced another year of record-breaking housing production numbers. We set new records for the most new construction affordable housing, permanently supportive housing, and housing for formerly homeless households. We've also set records for placing families and homeless households into affordable housing to make sure that those who are the most desperate circumstances are able to access safe and secure housing. While our work touches a wide range of New Yorkers, we know that the lowest income New Yorkers are the most impacted. Our production numbers reflect a specific focus on prioritizing their needs. HPD also committed to supporting existing homeowners and expanding homeownership opportunities, particularly in lower income communities and communities of color that have historically been excluded from opportunities to build and maintain wealth. As part of this commitment to homeownership, HPD has a three-pronged strategy to support existing and future homeowners that aligns with both our affordability and fair housing goals. First, retain and stabilize existing homeowners. We are helping current low-income homeowners stay in their homes and keep pace with the cost of repairs through successful programs like the Homeowner Help Desk, Home Fix, which is relaunching today, Plus One ADU, and our newly created Homeowner Advocate. Existing homeowners are telling us they need this support. For example, 2,800 homeowners expressed interest and support to build accessory dwelling units to support their family and improve financial security. HPD also provides funding to Mitchell-Lama developments and HDFC cooperatives that are struggling financially, and to support making renovations to maintain housing quality. With City's Council's authorization, the J51 program can also support investment by low-cost condominiums and cooperatives. Increasing access to existing homeownership opportunities with down payment assistance is our second prong. In recent years, HPD has expanded the Home First program. In 2021, we increased the amount available to each household from $40,000 to $100,000 to better align with the realities of our housing market. This increased assistance has enabled more first-time home buyers to purchase homes in a wider range of neighborhoods across New York City in accordance with our fair housing goals. We are actively looking at ways in which we can improve the program to increase the number of new first-time home buyers it can serve each year. And as part of Housing Our Neighbors, the administration increased funding for the program to support broader use. Third, creating new homeownership opportunities. Through the Open Door program and Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative program, we create new homeownership opportunities for low, moderate, and middle-income New Yorkers. In addition, the administration worked closely with the New York State Legislature to enact 485X, Affordable Neighborhoods for New Yorkers, a critical housing production tax incentive that will unlock affordable homeownership opportunities. The administration is also working closely with the City Council to advance the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity Tax Amendment, which will remove zoning impediments and allow a little more housing in every neighborhood, unlocking the potential for more homeownership units, especially in the outer boroughs. Our work to create new homeownership opportunities is, however, resource intensive. Homes created through Open Door require roughly 2 times as much city subsidy, and ANCP requires approximately 3 times as much city subsidy to develop compared to new affordable rental housing. We are committed to these programs as part of our 3-pronged strategy to assist existing homeowners and provide opportunities to new homeowners. We're also acutely aware of the need to balance our focus on homeownership with our equally important commitment to stabilizing the many New Yorkers experiencing acute housing instability and living in poorer quality housing. Those New Yorkers need us to produce as much affordable rental housing, supportive housing, and housing dedicated to households coming out of shelter as possible, and to continue to invest resources in renovations of existing affordable housing. Increasing our homeownership production requires us to make difficult trade-offs given the limited resources we have. In regard to the legislation being heard today, HPD supports the goal of Intro 958 to support homeownership as evidenced by our 3-pronged strategy. We also need to balance the impact that the proposed requirements would have on our resources and our ability to create and preserve as much affordable housing as possible given the number of New Yorkers in need. Rigid pipeline requirements would limit HPD's ability to maximize our resources in each closing cycle as effectively and efficiently as possible, and even potentially result in money or projects left on the table. Meeting this target may force HPD to deprioritize construction of new affordable rental housing or the preservation of affordable rental and homeownership properties, including 1 to 4 family homes, HDFC cooperatives, and Mitchell-Lama cooperatives. Further, a rigid homeownership requirement will be difficult to manage across different lending environments. High interest rates and more restrictive lending practices can at times impact interest within the market in financing homeownership, as well as low and moderate income New Yorkers' ability to get the financing necessary to participate in HPD's homeownership programs. High interest rates, for example, make mortgage payments more expensive, putting homeownership out of reach, or requiring significantly more HPD subsidy per homeownership unit. These national and even global trends can impact our ability to meet restrictive homeownership production requirements year over year. As City of Yes for Housing Opportunity is right around the corner, we look forward to working with Council to advance a critically a critically needed tool to build more housing, including homeownership citywide, and working hand in hand to implement the Speaker's Fair Housing Framework. These two important and ambitious initiatives will help us address some of the most critical housing challenges we face as a city. None of this would be possible without support of the City Council under the direction of Speaker Adams. Thank you for your leadership and continued partnership in this effort, and we're committed to working together to develop new and creative solutions to the housing challenges we currently face. Thank you for the opportunity to testify about this important issue, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Now I will hand it over to Speaker Adrian Adams for the first round of questions.
Thank you very much, Deputy Commissioner, for your testimony this morning, and welcome again to both of you. It's great to see you all, as always. I want to talk a little bit about the Open Door term sheet and program. How many projects and units have been financed by HPD's Open Door term sheet since it was created?
So the Open Door program was created in 2017, and since then we have financed 10 projects with 451 units. Last year was our most significant year. We financed 177 units, and committed $73 million.
Okay, now, since 2017, now what's prevented the numbers from being higher?
Yeah, I think there are some, we talked a little bit about this in the testimony, but there are certainly some challenges in financing new affordable home ownership. This is one important prong, the three-prong approach. We are also very invested in making sure that existing lower-income homeowners can stay in their homes and can make improvements to housing quality, and also very interested in increasing access through our down payment assistance programs. For Open Door and the other main program that we have that creates new opportunities, which is the Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative Program, it is particularly the cost that is a challenge. We do have an extremely robust capital budget, thanks in part to City Council's continued support. And so this year we have $2.2 billion. That sounds like a tremendous amount of money, but we're also constantly trying to figure out how to do more. The cost of building a new home through Open Door last year was $410,000 per unit. And that's about twice as much as what we invest in affordable new construction on the rental housing side. So I think while we're very interested in that, we have to be certainly mindful of the resources that we have available and the very significant needs that we are facing.
Yeah. And how many households have applied to the program via lottery since its implementation?
So I don't have the breakdown specifically for Open Door, but we know that for home ownership opportunities, which could also include the Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative Program, we get approximately 350 applications per unit. And we have placed, I think we have since 2020, so in the last 4 years, received approximately 228,000 applications. For comparison purposes, for rental housing, we receive about 450 applications per unit. Certainly, there's a lot larger volume of what we produced in that space.
Do you have a breakdown on Open Door, public sites versus private sites?
So in Open Door specifically, about 3/4 of the pipeline is public sites. And I think one of the main reasons for that is what I mentioned a moment ago, which is that on a private site, it can be much more expensive to finance any project. The advantage on a public site is that we get free land, right? And on a private site, we have to figure out how to finance the land costs or acquisition costs in addition to developing the real estate.
And where is the concentration usually around Open Door?
So we have actually in the 10 projects that we finance have been in every borough of New York City, and more than one. So there have been at least 2 projects in every borough.
That's good to hear. When a new construction proposal comes in, how do you determine if it's fit for HPD financing programs and specifically for Open Door?
So there are a couple things. See, first, we want to make sure that it actually aligns with the program term sheet. Sometimes we get proposals that are, they have unusual characteristics. So for example, somebody wants to finance mixed market and affordable homeownership. That's not something that we do through our program. We're looking for 100% affordable. So that's first. Second is looking at financial feasibility. And that is looking at the subsidy. It's looking also at market. So what are sales being priced at? Is that actually a discount to market? Can those sales happen within the Housing Connect process, right? Will we actually get demand for those units? We certainly look at other characteristics too. We look at the zoning and the neighborhood context. There's other aspects of the review as well, but financial feasibility and alignment with the program terms are some of the biggest.
Okay. How does HPD decide in which neighborhoods to build affordable housing units through Open Door?
So the program is open citywide, and we're open to taking proposals across the city. As I mentioned, we have finance projects in every borough. It is a large determinant of where we can build is the financial viability of the project. So parts of the city that have higher land acquisition costs would be far more expensive. So if the average cost of an Open Door project in 2024 was $410,000 per unit, land costs, let's say downtown Manhattan, that would make that a much more expensive project for us to finance. There are some parts of the city where the market for homeownership may not be as strong. And so for us to finance a project, as I mentioned, we'd want to make sure that we're actually providing affordability within that context, meaning if the market for homeownership is, let's say, 80-100% AMI, which would be on the lower end of New York City, we'd be having to price units much deeper than that to actually make sure that they could be leased up and sold. That then, if we have to price much deeper than that, can also increase the cost dramatically. So those are a couple of the factors that can really drive financial feasibility. There's also construction costs and any those types of factors. But it is a program that's open citywide. But like I said, the financial feasibility doesn't always work everywhere.
And if I could just add, so from a planning perspective, in our neighborhood plans, we try to look for opportunities to create multiple building types and housing types. So a good example is the Bed-Stuy neighborhood plan that HPD started in 2016, 2017 and moved forward. And out of that, we looked at public parcels that we had, and one of the projects that we're moving forward with soon is a 40-unit homeownership project called the Norma with Almont, a MWBE developer, and Bed-Stuy Restoration. So in that work, when we're looking at community, looking at public and private land, we're taking the response and the feedback from that neighborhood in the visioning plan and then looking for opportunities to build different building types.
Great. Okay. This year's budget agreement included an additional $55 million in annual funding for the Open Door program. How many additional units of new construction homeownership production does HPD estimate will result from this additional funding?
So with $55 million and at a cost of about $410,000 a unit, we can finance about 135 additional homeownership units.
Okay. We've seen some Open Door developments able to reach deeper levels of affordability, which we've been speaking about, such as those proposed by Habitat for Humanity. Mm-hmm. What are the tools or factors that enabled HPD to reach those deeper levels of affordability?
So there are a couple factors. I would first say, so in general, the new affordable homeownership opportunities that we're creating by financing real estate, we are targeting between 80 and 120% of area median income. We have occasionally had some units priced lower than that, and again, that's in part based on the market, local market conditions. And then, of course, in partnership with Habitat, we've been able to do that in part because they had a low-cost mortgage product that they were able to offer that brought the cost of financing down for homeowners. That product is no longer available. So I think what can make it more viable without driving the public investment cost up, without driving the subsidy up dramatically, is certainly where there's commitment from city council or borough president to invest RISOA, right? That can help. Inclusion of non-sitting funding, including state funds. So right now, New York State does have about $400 million that is available for the Affordable Homeownership Opportunities Program. Okay. A portion of that will be available within New York City, and so that certainly can help. Some projects, there's a possibility of contribution of developer equity by the developer that in part depends on the sales prices and other economics of the project. And then, of course, lower acquisition and land costs can make that viable too. The higher the construction and land costs, the harder it is for us to bring the sales prices down without really having a very high subsidy need.
You touched on this a little bit in your testimony about the bill specifically. Tell us again, in a little bit more detail, what are the challenges that you foresee in meeting the requirement of my bill, of Intro 958, that 6% of all affordable units HPD subsidizes are for home ownership?
So I think we're certainly committed to home ownership. I talked about the three-pronged approach. I think what is concerning us is the potential unintended consequences of having it structured, having that commitment structured as a percentage target of overall financed construction. And I think there's a couple potential issues there. One, we have a set capital budget every single year. So this year, the capital budget available for financing affordable housing at HPD is about $2.2 billion. If we have to get to 6%, and that is overwhelmingly new construction, right? Because we're really talking about to qualify new construction through programs like Open Door, down payment assistance, as well as conversions, which largely happens through the Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative Program. Let me take a step back. In FY24, we financed 396 qualifying units. That was about 2.5% of the financed production. We financed through subsidy programs about 15,695 units, okay? In order to get to the 6%, we would need another $382 million invested in home ownership to get to that 6%. So one of the potential concerns that we have is that the demand for both producing affordable deeply affordable rental housing and the demand that we're seeing on preservation right now is extremely high. This is one of the highest cost environments that we've ever seen in doing this work. And for especially existing buildings, Mitchell Lamas, HDFC co-ops, and restricted affordable rental properties, they're facing a really difficult situation right now with escalating operating costs and interest rates. So one of the concerns that we have is that unless we knew that we had the additional resources, we would have to make a choice between investing the money to meet this target, right, or investing in affordable rental housing in the city and or preservation work. And I think the implications of that could be, right, if we had to cut $382 million out of our affordable new construction, we would not be fully utilizing our low-income housing tax credit resources in New York City, which is a major federal source that we leverage. So that's not a situation I think any of us want to be in, right? I think we want to fully be able to maximize those federal sources. And at the same time, we are, like I said, we're seeing increasing needs in some of the existing affordable housing in New York City, including limited equity co-ops. And, one of, last year alone, we invested about $100 million in Mitchell-Lamas. I'd hate to be, in a situation where we couldn't make that investment in a given year because we were focused on creating new homeownership opportunities. So I think it's that, like, how we manage the resources is certainly a major question. And then I think the other thing, two other things maybe worth noting. We do have this three-prong approach. I think we all understand that we are trying to create new opportunities for first-time homebuyers in New York City. The concern is that creating real estate is actually more expensive, potentially. We could do that in other ways, right? And creating real estate alone, or having a majority of that 6% be through creation of no real estate, is a much more public resource-intensive strategy. We may be able to do similar work through down payment assistance, let's say, which we currently offer $100,000. The typical requests that we've been getting since we raised the limit to $100,000 is about $80,000. And that may actually allow many New Yorkers to access opportunities within the city today without the same commitment of public resources. So I think it's that, this really emphasizes one major prong of our overall homeownership strategy, and we're concerned about the preservation component not being included in it, the resource implications and very hard choices we may be faced with making. And I think those are really the big concerns. I don't know, Ahmed, if there's anything else that you would add to that.
Just to go back to the low-income tax credit, the LIHTC piece. So it's important to know also that we can't use it on home ownership. So as a result of that, we want to make sure we maximize it on our rental piece. Also, it's something that we continue to advocate to the federal government that New York City can use much more of. So every year and every time that we're pushing, we're trying to maximize our amount and push it. So we would not want to leave any on the table. This way, to emphasize that we would definitely need to make sure we have the capital in place to maximize the LIHTC so we can continue successfully advocating for it at the federal level.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I think that both of you have probably answered the next question that I have already, but we'll just get it out there on the record. Considering everything that you said, the three-pronged approach, everything else, does HPD have any plans to create any new programs to support development of affordable home ownership?
So we've actually, I know the numbers don't necessarily reflect this the last couple of years, right? So 4% homeownership production, 8% homeownership production seems low. That's in part because, we have kind of spikes at times on the preservation side where you may have a larger Mitchell-Lama that we're assisting. The commitment itself is actually very significant. Okay. So we have invested tremendous resources the last couple of years and are continuing to invest resources in expansion on the prong to help retain and stabilize existing opportunities that exist. So, for example, today we're relaunching Home Fix with the Center for New York City Neighborhoods. That's an additional $10 million commitment, not on the capital side, but on the expense side of the budget. So there are plenty of examples like that. The ADU +1 program, where we've seen tremendous interest, trying to expand technical and legal assistance for existing homeowners. Think about estate planning, and mitigating risk around deed theft. We've been doing a lot of work to try to actually get ahead of some of the challenges that homeowners are facing. We also, on the creating new opportunities side, to get to your question a little bit more directly, we did really advocate at the state level for reforms of 45X in order to have it work better potentially for homeownership. Okay. So 421A-16 overwhelmingly created affordable rental opportunities. That's clearly important in New York City. We didn't see a lot of use of option D, which allows for homeownership. As part of the advocacy we did with the state legislature, we asked for removal of the 35 unit cap. We also asked that the program be modified so that the assessed value limit is $89 a square foot now. That also does two things. One, it hits, that's about the 40 percentile in assessed value in New York City. So for lower cost markets, it is actually viable. And second of all, it's on a square footage basis so that we could actually incentivize larger units of homeownership. In the past, it was just on a dwelling unit basis. And we were seeing that where there was homeownership produced, it was smaller units that were being produced. So we think that, coupled with some of the zoning incentives, like mandatory inclusionary, which also allows homeownership, when we move forward on City of Yes for housing opportunity, that also will provide flexibility both for rental and homeownership opportunities. So we think that now that we have a tax incentive that potentially will work without a lot of additional public subsidies, that we may be able to create some lower cost homeownership in the city.
The only thing I would add is a program that the council knows well, which is the Zombie Home Initiative, something that we actually have seen expanded and improved with state advocacy. We've been experimenting with using parcels in that program that come back and is under greater city scrutiny that could possibly be reverted to affordable home ownership in the future. And we've at least been able to move with 2 parcels and see that as a case study that we can look to expand with further funding in the future.
Okay, that's good to hear. Just a couple more, and then I'm going to hand it over to the chair and my colleagues to continue. And looking at down payment assistance, you spoke a little bit about that, Deputy Commissioner. The Home First program, how many people have actually applied to Home First over the last 5 years?
So I think I have the applications. I will double check that. I might have to get back to you in a minute. I know that we have actually, in the last decade, assisted just under 1,000 first-time home buyers and acquiring in New York City. It's actually the amount that we've helped, the amount of home ownership we've helped New Yorkers access through Home First far surpasses Open Door, ANCP, or any other individual program. And we actually think there's really significant opportunities to think about ways that we could actually do more through that program. For example, last year we added additional home funds. We increased the limit to $100,000. That has certainly helped in being able to access homeownership opportunities in various markets across the city. We have primarily used home funds because we didn't have the authority under state law to actually provide down payment assistance. Right. Last year, the state legislature amended our loan authorities, and so for the first time, we could actually use city resources. And so we've been trying to figure out are there ways to expand what we're doing. We're bringing on a second servicer, and we are requalifying the housing counseling agencies in order to have a larger footprint in communities across the city. And we're trying to figure out now what we could do to allow New Yorkers to increase more markets and to increase the scale.
Okay. I think I'm going to.
Oh, and I'm sorry, sorry to interrupt, but we had, in the last 5 years, there were 636 homeowners, families that applied, and 373 applicants got financing from us, so about 60%.
60%, okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I have a few questions, and then I'm going to hand it over to some of my colleagues here. First question is, when a property, either city or privately owned, becomes available for HPD development, how do you determine if it's fit for HPD's financing programs, specifically for the Open Door program?
So it's a little bit different for public or private sites. So I'm going to start with private sites, and then we can talk about the nuance on public sites, and Ahmed may jump in there. So on private sites, it starts with a proposal from the development team. So, they say we're interested in affordable homeownership, or we're interested in affordable rental housing. They submit, the specifics of that project, what they would build, whether it complies with zoning, information about the market, a whole slew of information. And then we evaluate that, and we look at it in terms of, does it align with the program parameters that HPD has, and is it financially feasible? Those are really the big questions that we are grappling with. And as I mentioned just a couple of moments ago, one of the things on homeownership that, and this is true of rental housing too, understanding the market is really important. So in some markets, the homeownership, there may not be a really robust homeownership market. There are other parts of the city where there is, right? And so what is within the market? How are units being priced? If we were going to finance a project, are we going to be financing at a significant discount to market? Because our goal is certainly to produce affordable opportunities. And if the answer is no, it may not actually make sense for us to finance that project. So that actually does, that is a big consideration when we're looking at whether we would provide public assistance. And I'm sorry, Ahmed, do you want to talk about
the
public sites?
So I think that there are two levels. One is when we're looking at a neighborhood plan and we may have multiple parcels or multiple pieces of land. The feedback that we get from the community and the work and the numbers and the analysis that we do may suggest that we are looking at a number of different housing types we want to deliver both on private and public land. So whether that be multifamily housing, extra low income, middle or moderate access, senior housing, supportive housing, we are looking at both the types of housing we're trying to provide, and then also the characteristics of that plot. So the size of the land, whether it's encumbered with any technicalities that make it more expensive or difficult to develop on, and then how that relates to the term sheets and our ability to subsidize per unit. So we're looking at both the qualitative information we get from the community, the number of parcels, the size and land characteristics of the parcels, and the numbers as it relates to the development feasibility of that land. The other thing to think about is when you think about those parcels, we've had a lot of success looking at multiple parcels that may be smaller, too small for a successful multifamily project. But when we put them together in a cluster financing package, you can take 10, 14 individual small lots and build 3 to 4 unit co-op homeownership opportunities. And we've done that successfully recently in Brooklyn, and together created 114 homeownership opportunities just in that project. So we are trying to attack it from every angle. And I would say, again, looking at neighborhoods where the availability of homeownership versus rental and trying to figure out that balance, especially through the lens of recent conversations and improvement on our focus on fair housing, is a big part of those conversations.
What kind of outreach does HPD conduct among low and moderate income New Yorkers applying to purchase Open Door and other affordable homeownership units?
So there are a couple ways in which we do outreach when it comes to homeownership opportunities. First, we do have housing ambassadors. So let me take a step back. All of our financed opportunities, or anything we financed certainly in the last 5 or 6 years now, has we market it through Housing Connect. So it is all publicly available information. If somebody is interested in the opportunity, that is the place to go. Okay, so that's first. Second, we do have housing ambassadors. So community-based organizations that can help New Yorkers that are interested in affordable housing, whether that's rental or homeownership opportunities, understand our marketing process and guidelines and help them access those opportunities that might be out there, understand what they're going to need to do to qualify. We also, specifically for Home First, there are about 20 community-based HUD-certified counseling agencies that we work with that work with the homeowner at the start. So they actually may have first engaged with that organization for some other reason and end up talking about down payment assistance, or may be specifically interested in how to access homeownership opportunities. Those organizations certainly do outreach and engagement. We also have 2 now servicers specifically for Home First who do outreach as well as review applications for Home First, and that's NHS of New York City as well as the Center for New York City Neighborhoods. And so they also are out there. And then finally, HPD does range of engagement, tabling events, attending events, can work with you as council members if you're interested in hosting an event, basically providing information about both Home First as well as other opportunities that we have.
And I know the council has heard about the work on the homeowner help desk. This is a pilot that we put out in the field in 3 neighborhoods in the North Bronx, in Southeast Queens, and Central Brooklyn. Through that work, we saw that we were able to reach around 4,700 homeowners and assist 2,300. But I think it's important to note that the assistance went and really reached low-income and people of color. We saw that at least 80% of the people we served were people of color, and 50%, almost over 50%, were senior. And moving forward with this administration, we're baselining the homeowner help desk. We're going to go from 3 neighborhoods of the city, go citywide, and build in a 3-year contract where we're hoping to reach upwards of 160,000 New Yorkers, at least over 250 events. And this is, coupled with the HPD in your district, which Deputy Commissioner Darga already spoke about.
How would expanding HPD's programs that support low and moderate income homeowners need to be expanded to meet the needs of additional New Yorkers who would become homeowners thanks to Intro 958?
So if the question is about outreach, I think that we're moving toward that with the expansion of the homeowner help desk. It is a main prong. It's not the only prong, but the partnership between increasing our capacity internally, plus increasing the capacity of our partner on the ground, which is the Center for New York City Neighborhoods. Plus, they bring in over a dozen of CBOs in all the boroughs. So the tree of pushing that out, this new 3-year contract valued at over $9 million, is going to do significant work in that regard. Additionally, it will increase our capacity to assist homeowners with any questions that they may have. The big ones that we've heard a lot about is estate planning, deed theft, questions about resiliency. There's a lot of questions about what programs exist out there now and what is forthcoming due to new programs like Solar for All or the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund that was recently announced at the federal level and making its way through city channels.
I would just add to that so there's the outreach component. If we were going to implement Intro 958, there's a couple other things that we would need to look at. Certainly, we talked about a little bit earlier the resources. We really would need to look at increasing the capital resources if we were not going to be faced with hard choices.
Can you remind me of the dollar amount that you need?
So in order to, last year, this is the tricky part, right? So last year we financed 15,695 units. There's a whole series of other housing that we provide financial assistance for through as of right programs, inclusionary housing being one of them, 421A, going forward 45X. That is not in that universe. The financed universe was 15,695. So last year, we would have had to finance 942 units in order to get to the 6%. We would have needed $382 million in order to do that. So we do a portion of that work today, right? And so last year, we financed 396 units that would have counted. It's more than double that we would need to get to. And just for context, that's about 17% of the capital budget this year, right, for about 6% of the housing. So that's what I mean about being resource intensive and having to potentially make hard choices, especially if we didn't grow the pot.
And then the only thing is, over the last couple of years, that's last year's numbers. So if the environment continues to accelerate the way it has, and you know from talking to developers who are working in your communities as well, the costs have gone up usually faster and more quickly than they expect. So we would have to continue to reevaluate. That number would change unless the environment would cool down.
I understand inflation.
Yeah.
It's real and it has an effect. But my question is, once a year, the administration goes up to Albany, right? I believe they call it Tin Cup Day, right? There we go, right? And so, and I know that the commissioner goes up there as well, and that's your opportunity to ask the state elected officials, give them your priorities, give them your needs. And, speaking to my state elected officials, and I know that the majority whip will speak a little bit on this because we did a home ownership project in your district. There is the state elected officials want to bring home ownership to their communities. So what is HPD doing on Tin Cup Day or any other day that you go up and there's an ask to the state to allocate extra funding for home ownership, separate and aside from affordable housing?
Yeah. I mean, there have been additional resources added on the homeownership side the last couple years now. As part of the state housing plan, and then annually there's been some additional resources. The AHOP program did not exist, the Affordable Homeownership Opportunities Program, until a couple years ago. That helps finance limited equity cooperatives. And then last year there was another 80 million added to also finance limited equity cooperatives through another initiative. Some of that, so that's statewide funding. Some of that's available in New York City. That helps, but I'm just going to be honest, it's still not enough. If we want to increase the real estate we're financing, it's definitely not enough.
So my question, Commissioner, again is, what is HPD doing to ask for more money?
So we've asked for a greater percentage of the AHOP funds to be used downstate. We've asked for lending authority flexibility to help home ownership, which we saw in last year's state legislative cycle. We've asked for additional work. J51 again to help limited liability co-ops. We saw that passed at the state level, and we're working with the council to see that move forward. And we're also asking and working to look at additional assistance for other co-op entities like Mitchell Lamas. So we've been making actually a number of different asks, and we've seen some movement, but we can always use more support.
But it sounds like it's not enough. Please use this body. We are interested in helping you to bring that funding to the city so we can create more home ownership.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that help.
My last question here is there are communities such as Diana, myself, I know Farias, where we're building affordable housing, right? And actually we're doing more than our fair share. And we want to see home ownership. How can HPD prioritize or change their focus on these communities that are building all the affordable housing in the city of New York, right? Because that's really what's happening here. How can HPD change their focus instead of focusing on more affordable housing in our communities, since we're housing more New Yorkers than other districts, and changing that focus to actually bring in home ownership?
Yeah, I think that's a very That's a very interesting question. And I think it is, I'm not sure that I have a perfect answer for you today on that. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I think that from a fair housing perspective, that is a question that we should absolutely be grappling with. And the best answer I have today is we have seen use of down payment assistance in some of the districts. There are not, like if you look at the share of homeownership, it is lower. So the options, there are fewer options for people to purchase. We are open to taking applications through Open Door. And I would, encourage you to talk to developers about your interest in that. We have to then review them from a financial feasibility perspective.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The only thing I would add here is that, as the Deputy Commissioner mentioned, we have a need and a responsibility to build enough rental housing to match what the demand is in the city. That being said, there are ways we can do it that isn't as HPD resource intensive and using zoning and regulation to build that housing, build mixed income housing, build more affordable housing that would allow us to be able to think creatively and more strategically with the resources that we have. So we've mentioned how the City of Yes zoning text amendment would allow us to rely on more private action in the city to help build up the rental market and include regulated, required, affordable housing. That would take some of the pressure that we have in our responsibility to build rental there and think about home ownership opportunities elsewhere in the city. And especially given the fair housing work we've done and where we live as an administration moving into this, the fair housing legislation, your question, Chair, is exactly the one that we're thinking and looking at to making sure that we're having a balance of housing types across the city.
It's doable. I mean, in my district, I believe I have what's called Phipps houses. They build Villa Verde. Half of it is affordable housing. The other half is co-op, home ownership. And so, and I know that all the developers are watching. Fair warning: if you want to come to District 17 moving forward, I want to see home ownership. Right there we go, 31. So with that, I'm going to go to my colleagues who have questions. We're gonna give each council member 5 minutes first round. Then we'll do if there's a second round, we'll do 3 minutes. And we're gonna ask you, HPD, please be very direct with your questions so that they can get as many questions as possible. And I'm going to start, of course, with my Deputy Speaker, Diana Ayala.
He better. No, I'm only kidding. I love him. But I do have a question following up on Councilmember Salamanca's line of questioning regarding the number of units that are currently approved but waiting for financing. Do you know what that number is?
Approved for homeownership?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I know there are a couple dozen projects. I think there are 23 projects in the pipeline. I don't know the unit count of those projects.
And do we know what the length of time each project approximately is on hold for?
Interestingly, the pipeline is much bigger on the rental side. So based on the resources we have, we can finance a few projects a year. So it'll take maybe 4 or 5 years to get through the pipeline at the current pace of financing. Not all of the projects in the pipeline today are ready, right? Some of them actually have pre-development work they need to do that's going to take some time. Mm-hmm. But there's a pipeline there, but we're making good progress.
And of the 900 plus units that were developed last year, do we know if those units were created throughout the entire city of New York, or were they concentrated to specific communities or boroughs, districts?
I know that, yes. There were 396 new units. There was a larger universe of preservation work, right? So that's just the units that would count toward meeting the target if this bill moved forward. Let me just see. So there were homeownership units created in every borough of New York City. And I think almost every single council district, it's a mix of preservation and new construction.
Okay. Okay.
If you wanted the specific breakdown on new construction, I think we'd have to follow up to get it.
Yeah, that would be great. That would
Okay.
be great. And obviously, I would be remiss if I did not pitch for my own district. I do have a homeownership project that's part of the former MEC project on 125th Street. That's been, in the pipeline for almost 18 years. We've been having conversations. There was a lot of, litigation and stuff. So the project, it hasn't ever been finalized. We agreed through ULURP to a number of units that, I understand the city now may have some difficulty funding as is, but I would really welcome a conversation about what the strategy is moving forward in terms of, can we build half now, half later? Are we never, is it a definitive that we are not able to get to the number that was agreed upon through ULURP? But that conversation needs to happen. And I know I've reached out on a couple of other projects, but I just feel like the open-ended, ness of this, the status of these projects is problematic. We need to be able to make decisions at the council that, determined based on whatever feedback we're getting from HPD. So if we're not getting that feedback, we're not able to plan accordingly. And this project, was already passed through ULURP. It was promised to the community many, many years ago, and we're still in conversation. I know the developer is interested in moving forward with some, type of development. It's not where we were supposed to be, but I'm agreeing to in the event that, hoping that we are also going to have a commitment to build more at a future time. So I'm flexible, but running out of time and patience.
Okay. Yes, we absolutely are happy to sit down and
I appreciate
talk that through.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just going to have to shift briefly. The next line of question, I'm just going to give Councilmember Perina Sanchez 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair, and good morning, everyone. First, I just want to thank the Speaker and the Chair Salamanca for this hearing and at least sparking this conversation in public. It's really important. In Speaker Adams and Chair Salamanca's remarks, they highlighted how low the homeownership rates are in New York City. So 30% New York City, 53% in the state, and almost 70%, 65% nationally. In my community, fully 94%, as you will always hear me say, 94% of our 170,000 residents and 55,000 households live in rental housing. Only 6% own. This is one of the lowest homeownership rates in the city. We're also over 98% Black and Latino, with a median income per worker at $23,000. Our neighborhood is as strong an example as there can be of the horrific legacies of redlining, discrimination, and other policies, other racist policies of the past. HPD, we've talked about the relatively fractional amount of new construction that is going to home ownership. So my first question is about where we live, about the city's plan to affirmatively further fair housing, which you have pursued even in the face of federal administrations that have deprioritized it, the last administration. So what does HPD's Where We Live plan say about what the city should be doing about homeownership opportunities and the racialized impact? And what is the city doing to change that neighborhoods of concentrated poverty like mine, like Chair Salamanca's and others, have such low homeownership rates?
So my recollection, and I don't have the plan here today or full summary, so we can follow up if we've missed something, but the big emphasis, one of the big pieces of what we emphasized in Where We Live was access. And one of the reasons that we increased the limit for down payment assistance was actually to give New Yorkers more choice about where they could buy in New York City. And that is also one of the reasons why, as Ahmed mentioned a few minutes ago, we advocated for changes under state law to have more flexible loan authorities so we could not just rely on federal resources for down payment assistance. I'm just going to give you a few examples. There's a price cap. So under federal, under the home program, homeowners, there's limits, right? you can up to 20% of the purchase price is one of the limits. Even with that limit, HUD has imposed a maximum price that someone can purchase. In New York City, that covers a chunk of neighborhoods, but certainly not all of New York City. So one of the things that we've been thinking about if we were going to expand the program using city resources is to eliminate those price caps. What we've seen is that the result is that people tend to buy smaller units. So one of the big things that we've been pushing is down payment assistance. I don't think that fully addresses your question around the share, right? And that you are in a community that is, I think you said 94%.
And sorry, because I'm on the clock and I want to be mindful, but I know that for my district, only 0.7% of new affordable units in the last decade have been home ownership. So that's 12 home ownership units subsidized by the city of New York compared to 1,700 rentals. That to me is not in comportment with what a city that is trying to affirmatively further fair housing would be doing. So just highlighting that. And yeah. Also, just on down payment assistance, 80% of AMI is an income of a household that is earning $100,000 for a family of three. My neighborhood is at about half of that. So no down payment assistance in a district like mine, next to no homeownership production. So turning this into a question, what would resources need to look like for HPD to target Open Door to lower AMI levels, to target Open Door to target down payment assistance to even get to something like 60% of AMI, 50% of AMI? And I'm just going to ask them because I'm going to run out of time. Home First, the down payment assistance programs targets households making up to 80% of AMI. What level of additional resources would HPD need to make Home First viable for lower income households? And very important, just hearing your concerns about maximizing federal resources like LIHTC wanting to leave nothing on the table in terms of the array of housing that HPD finances. In the last decade, how often has HPD turned LIHTC subsidized rentals that expire into home ownership after year 15, which I understand you are able to do? Are we leaving anything on the table there?
Okay, so Open Door. So as I mentioned, we have to, if we're going to invest public resources, we need to know that we're providing affordability within the community. And also because we impose income limitations, if we don't do that, there's not actually demand, right? We can go deeper, but it requires more public resources. And the other thing that I think we just need to be cognizant of is that there is correlation between income and debt to income, and that in order to qualify for a unit within HPD financed housing, right, if you're coming through Housing Connect, you're getting financing within the private market, meaning the lender is going to look at your credit score and your debt to income, and you may or may not qualify for a loan based on factors outside of HPD's control, right? So it's possible to do so. It is much more resource intensive. We are already investing on average last year $410,000 a unit for the Open Door housing. So if you were to bring down the AMI dramatically on the sales prices, the public investment would be significantly higher. You could offset that if there were other resources and if it wasn't fully the city investing. On down payment assistance, the current program serves households up to 80% AMI. The average income of a purchaser recently, a family purchasing, is $68,000. So it's actually significantly lower. We do have low income households that are purchasing through that program. And then on conversions, this is an interesting question. The low income housing tax credit conversions are probably the most financially feasible because you shouldn't have significant acquisition costs, although you can. It is still possible that the current owner, if they are going to allow a conversion, there would be a sale involved, right? That's not always the case. It varies. Even with that, there are other factors that would be need to be addressed in order for a conversion to be viable. You'd want to know that at least 80% of the tenants are interested, at least 80% of the tenants are good standing on their rent payments, and at least 80% of the tenants have attended training. Those are standard rules of thumb that we've used that have indicated that you have a group of residents that are ready to step into the ownership space, and they have a critical mass of other residents in their property that are interested. Where it is harder to actually effectuate conversions is if you have a non-regulated, let's say, tax credit property, and there's a private site acquisition that also needs to be accounted for. In those projects, the residents basically have the sales price for the insiders, the current residents, has to be sufficient to help cover the acquisition costs. And so depending on the market that the property is in, that can be pretty high and may end up being some barrier to purchase. Our down payment assistance is available, so that might be a tool to help. But there are definitely some challenges. It's not impossible. We have seen a few requests specifically in the LIHTC preservation program to convert, but there are also, it's complex, and it may not work out in every project.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Council Member. Now we will hear questions from Majority Whip Brooke Powers, followed by Majority Leader Farias.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker, for this much-needed piece of legislation. And hello, HPD. I will start by saying thank you for recently helping to cut through some red tape with getting someone into a new home. So I do want to acknowledge that. I'm going to ask all of my questions first so that I know that they'll get answered. I will repeat whatever you need. The first thing is, as a co-prime sponsor of Intro 958, I'm concerned about the lack of investment by HPD in home ownership units. Only 3% of affordable units that HPD has financed citywide since 2014 are for home ownership. What percent of units currently in the HPD pipeline are designated for home ownership? Next, the Auburn East development, which we've spoken about before privately, but just on the record wanting to ask this question. The Auburn East development on the Rockaway Peninsula is set to feature 1,650 units, including homeownership opportunities. How many homeownership units does HPD intend to finance as a part of the Auburn East initiative? What measures has HPD taken to ensure as many residents in my district as possible are able to benefit from the homeownership opportunities as a part of Auburn East? I'd also like to get an update on the next phase of Auburn East with the homeownership, making sure that we have that commitment for the next phase to still include homeownership, and if not, a reason why. Does HPD have data on how many homeownership versus rental term sheets are used on HPD-funded project year over year?
Can you repeat that?
Does HPD have data on how many homeownership versus rental term sheets are used by HPD-funded projects year over year? And by prioritizing the construction of rental units, HPD has deprived New Yorkers of the chance to build generational wealth for their families and contributed to displacement of renters that are forced to leave their neighborhoods due to increasing rents. Given the decades-long housing crisis in New York City, do you believe that we should set an even higher threshold than 6% for homeownership units? And then my last two questions is just following up to something you said earlier. One, you made reference of 15,695 units financed last year. How many of those were homeownership? I think you said it, but I didn't catch the number, so I just wanted clarity on that. And then lastly, can the Office of the Homeowner Advocate be utilized to offset some of the burden that you speak to? Because I know you said it's labor intensive with the homeownership opportunity, but is there a way that HPD could leverage that new office to support potential homeowners in terms of getting some of the requirements together and making them more viable to become homeowners? And okay, last question. Ocean Crest, I just like an update on Ocean Crest, which is the project that the chair mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, I think I got that all, but if I missed anything, maybe help me out, okay? All right, let's see. So the number of homeownership units financed last year, hang on, if you give me 1 second, I can check that. So it was, I believe, 2,130 units was homeownership. And that is a mix of preservation and new construction, as well as down payment assistance. A lot of our, I just want to take a step back, HPD has financed actually a fair amount of homeownership over the years. Most of it was because the city had a lot more public land. And so, and because of urban renewal, right? So the Mitchell-Loma program, for example. A lot of our work has focused on preserving those homeownership opportunities. And that's why you see a lot of our resource investment has gone into preservation of existing limited equity homeownership opportunities in New York City, as well as more recently an increasing emphasis on providing support to existing 1 to 4 family homeowners. Okay. So let me try to go back and cover some of the other questions. The project questions really quickly. So Arvin East, I don't have the total count of homeownership opportunities. We have been working with the development team there to try to figure out if it's possible to include homeownership in the next phase. So we are in active discussions looking at that.
I'm sorry, what would be the barrier for that to be in this next phase, which it should be in?
I mean, it's really just, again, we have a certain amount of resources. If we did all homeownership in the next phase, I have a large number of other projects in other parts of the city that I'm also trying to finance. So just trying to make sure that we can move multiple projects forward.
But the model, as we discussed, is homeownership and rental in one unit,
yes,
which is something that I think some of my colleagues would be looking to do also as they look for homeownership opportunities and finding that balance. So HPD has to kind of figure out how to make that work, because we make these commitments, we vote on ULURP projects with commitments for homeownership and certain things to take place. But then once we vote, we have no more power. It's left with HPD to facilitate this in terms of making sure they're prioritizing it in the pipeline. Mm-hmm. But what I'm finding is these projects are getting changed after we've taken a vote on it.
Okay, so for context, right, so that is what we're trying to figure out, is if we can finance some homeownership in the next phase. At 90 units of homeownership, let's say, in the next phase would cost us $36 million, which is basically half of our budget this year for Open Door. We have projects in many other communities that are also where they are ready to close. And so we're trying to figure out, this is the question that we are constantly grappling with, right? Every council member here has potential projects that they're interested in financing that have that too. So I'm trying to balance the resources and figure out how to advance as much as possible. So we are interested in doing that, but it really is going to come down to, do we have the resources in the near term to do it?
And those 90 units for that phase is out of how many?
I don't have the
Like
Full Arverne, I think the full Arverne.
No, not
yeah.
the full for that phase, because 90 is just a fraction of how many rental units you're still getting out of it. And then also, and I always have this question, we're asked and pressured at times to make these votes on these large developments that HPD is not prepared to even push through the pipeline for years to come. So are we taking these votes too soon at this point, because HPD does not have the capacity or bandwidth to make sure that they are going in a timely fashion?
So let me take a step back and give some context. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if somebody came in and wanted to work with HPD, the pre-development period on new construction project might be 2 to 3 years. If you have to entitle a site, go through ULURP, it could be longer. Costs have escalated at such a degree the last couple of years, we cannot finance as quickly because the pot of resources just does not go as far. So for example, we get $800 million a year in volume cap. That is one of the major sources to finance affordable rental housing in New York City. That $800 million is essentially the same from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago as it is today, right? So it's not that we don't want to advance the projects as quickly as possible. In fact, that is our goal, right? It's that we have been in an environment where costs are up 30, 40, 50%, right? Interest rates are up, operating costs are up, construction costs are up. And so we're trying to do as much as possible, as quickly as possible. But some of that is out of our control. Fortunately, the capital budget is very robust, but all of the other resources that we depend on have not grown, right? So our Section 8 budget has not grown. Our low-income housing tax credit allocation has not grown. And so we're basically we're trying to do as much as we were 5 years ago without necessarily the resource landscape to do it. So all of these, we can go through and ask every one of these questions, but that is the heart of one of the challenges that we're grappling with this legislation, right? Is that we are trying to do as much. We have 100,000 people in shelter. We have a vacancy rate on the rental side of 0.4% for the lowest cost units. We have, I think, a moral obligation to try to finance as much deeply affordable rental housing as we can in New York City. So homeownership is absolutely an important prong, and that's why we have this robust strategy. I'm
sorry not to cut you off, because I just want to clarify something. Because we have an obligation to house New Yorkers for sure. But there are New Yorkers who are renting that want to become homeowners. There are New Yorkers in shelter that are city workers that have the bandwidth and would like to be homeowners, that if we were creating these opportunities, these avenues, they would take advantage of. So it's important to not just look at one avenue for New Yorkers, but to really look at it and create opportunities for New Yorkers to create generational wealth as well.
We agree.
And I know you all say this, and you've said this in past hearings, and I just really can't stand for it, because that's saying that there's no New Yorker here or that's viewing that wants to be a homeowner, and that's not true.
No, that's not what we're saying. We agree with you. I think the question is, like, what HPD has a certain resource pot, and the needs are extremely robust on the rental housing side, right? We know there are a lot of people that are unhoused today, and we know there are a lot of people that are in housing today where the conditions are not great, right? So the question isn't, do we not do it? It's right, how do we address the really urgent needs while also trying to provide these other opportunities? So go ahead.
And just, I'm going to move into I think we agree strategically. It's not one or the other. It's do both. We are focused, obviously, on the lowest barrier to get people immediately shelter and housing, but also, I think you point out, we know that New Yorkers want to be homeowners, and we have an obligation to give them the information and make sure they know how to get on that pathway to do that. And so, first of all, thank you for working with us on the homeowner advocate bill. I actually have with us here Assistant Commissioner Jenny Vale, who is our homeowner advocate, and I wanted to talk about a little bit of the work that she is doing. You had mentioned what resources we have to help and assist homeowners. We've already talked through the homeowner help desk and the work that they're going to do through the 5 boroughs, but in addition to that, HPD is currently launching a new set of new home ownership information classes that works in tandem and parallel to that work. Owning a home in NYC specifically for home ownership, for homeowners or prospective homeowners. This is in addition to working and expanding the work of the 20 homeownership counselors funded by HUD and continuing to get education and out to the 60 or so housing ambassadors in and around New York City. I know we have at least one in your district, and I think we've been talking to them about working more to get information that they may need, and we'll continue to connect them with the Office of the Homeowner Advocate to make sure we're doing robust programming there. The other thing that I think is important to note is that when we work with homeowners, it's not only through HPD, so whether it's Department of Finance, DEP, it's not a siloed approach. We are constantly talking as agencies together. How do we triage the issues that come up? How do we get information out to be prospective about that? I think on the displacement side, the issue of New Yorkers not being able to grow and live in the neighborhoods that many of them help build is something that drives everyone to work every day here at HPD. I always point to the fact, and we've talked about this at the housing vacancy survey, that rent stabilization is probably one of the most critical tools that we've had to make sure that we're maintaining neighborhood cohesion and economic diversity. That's something that in a city that's 2/3 rental was a big priority to make sure that we're defending. The changes to the 2019 rent stabilization law further advance the protections there. And as we continue to create stability there, to your point, can't just do one or the other. It gives us the opportunity and the space to think about how do we help those who want to continue the pathway. So you have people who have starter homes looking to build into larger homes, and you have people looking for starter homes. And there's a number of ways that we can do that with HPD, but as the Deputy Commissioner said, part of this is outside HPD's purview. We can provide the down payment assistance, but if interest rates are stubbornly high, it's hard for them to get the end loans to be able to move into that space. We can help prepare them, we can help create more housing, but we need to really give them the tools to be ready when the market piece is there, and that's where we come down to down payment assistance, which is a fraction of the cost of creating new housing, happens in a slower timeline, and can be activated faster and help people now, especially when you're talking about trying to align to outside market forces that change. You need the fastest and swiftest tool to be able to put them in a position to get into home ownership.
And I didn't get the data information, but I'm going to ask the chair, just in the interest of time, if we can ask them to give that to us after the hearing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for your responses.
Thank you. Now we hear from Majority Leader Farias.
I know you folks have just been waiting for my questions.
Right here.
We know, as was stated already by our speaker and chair, that the home price has doubled, making it impossible for people to live here at times, and let alone even dream to own in New York City. While you folks have been focused on preserving a lot of our existing home ownership, HPD also has a variation of means to offer affordability in term sheets for development. And while I think we've been discussing a lot of the LIHTC, I still haven't quite heard the why we are not offering the financing opportunity on mixed rental and homeownership buildings. And maybe I did hear it in a variation of capacity and multitudes of that, but I'd like for you folks to talk a little bit more. And then, if possible, why aren't we offering or looking at creating a term sheet for this, the mixed rental and homeownership buildings, and that possibility as an offering from HPD. I think the model itself presents a lot of different potential and benefits for communities in New York City, especially ones that look like mine. And I think another part of this, just to kind of piggyback off of what the Majority Whip was stating, is the more families and individuals we move out of rentals and into homeownership frees up the rental units. And so I know we all are looking at it as a cyclical, kind of more comprehensive way, but we do have to also envision that in creation of homeownership means we're also getting to move and transition people into different housing, which means we get to open up and offer up already existing units while we're still building to meet the capacity. So if you folks can talk a little bit about the HPD term sheet.
Sure. So there's no dedicated term sheet for mixed rental homeownership, but it is something that we are open to. We are actually exploring on a couple sites. And I think it's really, again, we have to look at financial feasibility. We're still working within the pot of resources that we have. I also think as we've seen some of these projects, we're also thinking through kind of operations and long-term implementation questions. I don't think that those are, there's nothing prohibitive so much about that model as like they're just, there are some questions about long-term management and operations that we have to work through, especially with our development partners that haven't done that so much before.
Okay. Is there general concerns or prospective challenges that you see maybe are already reflective with other agency work or state level agency work?
No, I think again it's a model we're exploring. I think we're open to continuing to explore it, and I think it's a question of it's the same question around just resource allocation and making sure that we can serve as many New Yorkers as possible.
Okay, I think we'd love to continue that conversation. Okay. I'd like to just jump into just one question on backlogs on closings and the connection of maintaining the approved financing. I think for most of us, when we approve a project and we agree on financing or unit count or the affordability levels with AMI, as the Majority Whip stated, we end up with a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year development of that building that over time, sometimes, most times, changes how the financing looks for that development team and the benefits that the community gets. Is it capacity or resources within HPD outside of maybe some of the financing issues that you've already kind of went around, looking at closings and looking at deadlines on how to move projects through that are maybe more on time or could be more beneficial to a community?
Yeah, so I think the big challenge, I think we all, fortunately, interest rates, the Fed agreed yesterday to reduce, but in the last 4 years, we've experienced extreme inflation, and that has meant that the cost of building real estate has gone up pretty dramatically. And the impact of that is, fortunately, as we talked about, our capital budget has grown dramatically, and that has helped us keep pace with some of the production work. But the other resources that we rely on to finance our housing have not grown. And so it does mean that it's taking longer to finance some of our projects than it did before. That doesn't mean that we don't remain committed to the project, sure. And we certainly are committed to achieving the affordability that was discussed and agreed upon. Expenses grow and AMI has grown, and so it's we know that means that the rent we thought was 30% AMI 5 years ago, and the rent that it is today isn't necessarily the same. But we don't control the operating costs growth, and so we need to make sure that projects are financially viable. The commitments that were agreed to are commitments that we absolutely intend to keep to the maximum extent possible.
Chair, if I may have a few more minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. And then in terms of the closings that you folks have set, how many of them do we look at per quarter, per year, and do we look at it across the 5 boroughs?
So the number of closings can vary dramatically year to year because we are financing a huge range of different types of real estate, right? Everything from providing home repair loans to single-family homeowners, to down payment assistance, to financing large multifamily new construction, smaller multifamily new construction, supportive housing, preserving and providing, renovation assistance for HDFC cooperatives and Mitchell Lamas and former LIHTC properties. Like everything you can imagine, we're basically providing assistance in some way. We are closing thousands of transactions. Most of them are through the as of right programs that are easier for us to administer and less resource intensive. So 421A and inclusionary housing has a huge volume of transactions. And of course, a lot of transactions with individual homeowners. So down payment assistance and through our home repair programs. Okay. The amount really varies in terms of transactions. We're trying to get to a certain amount of households that we're serving annually. And so last year, right, we financed over 25,000 units of housing, which is a mix of new construction and preservation. Our goal is to finance as much as possible because we know the needs are so significant.
And the only thing I would add is that there's also program areas that are important. So whether we are trying to increase and meet our benchmarks for supportive housing, for senior housing, and then additionally, when we look across the year, there are different points where we see external activity about what financing we'll have. So there are 2 points at least in the year where we know where we're going to get our LIHTC funding and we know how that will impact each of the different points in the closing season. There are things that close in between the closing season, but those main points and understanding what the external factors would be, what will flow down from the federal government to the state to us, helps define some of that. And then we position the capital resource to match that and then see what else we can do, both on the program side, using those funding sources.
Okay, and then I just have a last quick question around the support around Mitchell Lamas and cooperatives and the preservation efforts. I'd like to hear any thoughts about working with DHCR at the state and how any challenges presented by their management or, in my opinion, for some of my properties in my district, mismanagement of them and how it's impacting the folks that we've over decades attempted to help them create generational wealth and be homeowners in our communities that are now, seeing massive increases, and or potentially even the council has now seen a Mitchell Lama have to move out of the Mitchell Lama program because of that mismanagement. And I wonder how that impacts your work and the preservation efforts that you folks have.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issues facing existing buildings have been really significant the last couple of years. I mean, we say there's been cost increase, and that's increased the cost of real estate construction. But when you're talking about an existing building, you can't, raising rents has different implications, right? Or raising maintenance has different implications. There's people living there today, not people that are choosing to move into a place. And so we are as equally concerned as you are about making sure that we are doing everything we can to ensure good housing quality within that housing and it can stay as affordable as possible. We have been working and talking a lot with the state recently, particularly about Mitchell Lamas, and if there are ways that, things that we could do, additional resources that we might be able to bring to bear in order to help make sure that those properties remain in good condition.
Yeah, I would just go ahead. So to get down to some of the specific items, so Mitchell Lamas are actually a place where we use a pretty significant portion of our Section 8, our federal housing vouchers, to make sure we're stabilizing people. I think we have at least 5,500 vouchers in Mitchell Lamas, and we continue to do that work. It's part of that stability work where we're using vouchers. We're also actively using the SCREE program as we see maintenance increases that may have to come up. I mean, from HPD's perspective, we have about 96 developments, 47,000 units. It's a big part of the work we did. Last year, I think Kim had mentioned we spent around $97 million. I think we've spent somewhere around $760 million since 2014, just stabilizing the Mitchell-Lama stock. So we're looking at a couple of things. There are powers that the state has that we don't have. There are things that we can do on the local level. Everything from what the taxes are in a building, to the use of housing vouchers, to the reliability and the consistency of maintenance to meet the accelerating costs. We're trying to map this out into a strategy and work smart, because we have resources and we have to make sure we're using this in a smart way.
Yeah.
I would just say if there are particular issues that you're seeing, please reach out to us.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Yes.
He knows already? Okay,
I was going to
good.
say, don't need to give you folks my list again.
Yes.
You
Okay,
folks
good.
have my list.
All right.
I appreciate the responses. I think that there's, because of the jurisdictional capacities that we have, and I think we've kind of left that gap to each of our, the state doing their thing, the city doing our thing, have left families at high risk of losing their homes. And at the end of the day, these Mitchells, whether they're run by DCHR or they're run by us, they are within the city. And I think it's really critical for us to have a larger hand and at least the oversight that the state is doing, or the lack thereof that they are doing, and looking at the HOAs, the boards, the management properties that are not actually putting in place the standards that need to be practiced by a lot of these properties, and are putting our families at risk of losing their homes. So we will continue the conversation on the properties I have in my district, but there is a larger conversation that needs to happen between the city and the state as we continue discussing homeownership and preservation of homeownership. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, folks.
I agree. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just want to recognize Councilwoman Deputy Speaker Major Ayala.
I have a couple of follow-up questions regarding the TIL program. Do we know what the existing number of buildings that never transitioned, that are kind of stuck in that, in that space is?
Yeah, so we have financed, I believe, 56 buildings since we launched the Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative Program in 2012, and we have 71 left in city ownership.
71 left. That
we are working to finance. And that is one of our biggest priorities when it comes to new affordable home ownership. We actually this year made some program modifications. We, I think, engaged with a number of council members on this that have buildings in their district around increasing the capital commitment on our end in order to reduce the amount of private debt used to finance the buildings. And also, we've been trying to think about how to give the residents a say in selection of the developer that's going to work with them to renovate the buildings.
I think just to add also, this is one of those programs where it's at one of our lowest points of AMI setting for the maintenance. So we heard earlier trying to set, I think it's around 40% of AMI, but it does come at a great cost. It is it's one of the costliest programs that we have, and it's more than double on other programs. So it's an important commitment to make, but because of what we're trying to do here, it's a large drain on capital source.
I mean, just to take that like a point further, so the ANCP projects in the last year have cost just under $600,000 per unit for us to renovate and put on a path to homeownership. That is a commitment we are absolutely dedicated to. It is a good example of how this is just as we're trying to figure out how to do everything. Right, financing new and financing that at the same time. These are the types of things that become really difficult to juggle. We would like to make sure we move that pipeline as quickly as possible before we think about where we're putting additional resources.
What is the budget for that particular program?
This year, it's I think like 135-ish million.
Yeah, no, 100.
I mean,
114. It was a little
when you
off.
divide that by 600,000 per build, it's not a lot of units.
Yes, we would like to do more. One of the things that slowed that pipeline down a little bit recently, we had a lot of staff turnover. Now we have a great team. But it was taking a minute to understand the issues that residents were raising about the debt, some of the reluctance to move. And I know there's a lot of concerns given how long it's taken. I am not going to dismiss that, right? Because it has been a long time since they entered city ownership. But making sure that they felt like they were working with partners they could rely on. And that's where, like, we've been testing out this model where the residents have a choice of developer. And so that slowed down some of the projects a little bit, but we've tested it now and we feel like there's a good approach there and we're ready to move forward.
So is there like a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan to?
Oh, no, 5 year, 5 year. We want absolutely to finance these projects within 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I love the CLT model. The council's been working really hard to create, more CLTs throughout the city, and I think that there's also an opportunity for those buildings, if engaged appropriately, right, to have a conversation about maybe also, entering the CLT. I think it offers a lot of protection. I recently was looking at units for sale, and ran across an HDFC building where the unit was being, I think it was being sold for upwards of $700,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That shouldn't be happening because these are not profit-bearing opportunities, right? These are
they're limited equity homes, which means that it's a balance of long-term affordability with profit, right, for the shareholder. If there's not some value, then what's the value of homeownership if you don't derive some benefit?
I mean, if you buy it for $250, you shouldn't be selling it for $700.
So
that's why I like and I support the CLT model, because whatever the purchase price is whatever you're going to get on the if you want to buy out, and it ensures that the model is protected in the way that it was intended. Because what we've seen is there's been a lot of turnover in these buildings, and people have either decided to sublet or sell outright and then buy elsewhere, and then we have folks of a higher income moving into these spaces, and that's not why the program was created.
Whether through CLT or otherwise, even in our own regulatory agreements, like over the years, we've learned how to respond to issues that we've seen. And in our own regulatory agreements, we've continued to refine and make tighter and tie it more closely to the promise of affordability and the intention and goals. So especially now as we work with buildings, whether through new or refinancing and preservation work, most of those limitations are more closely hewn to the AMIs that we're trying to commit. So you see less of that in the newer in the buildings with newer regulatory agreements.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that if the CLT, Cooper Square is already there, we could learn from some of their best practices, and utilize some of that data to help support the not only the redevelopment but the preservation of the TIL buildings that are still left on the pipeline.
Yeah, one of the areas where we're absolutely excited to have new partners coming to the table. A lot of the CLT groups are newer in this space, and we need as many partners as we can to do the work that we have. One of the things that I think we're most excited about is on homeownership projects, that you have another group there that can help provide ongoing support over time, ensure that the co-op is complying with the regulations, but also provide the technical and financial support if necessary. So we also agree that there's some real benefit there.
Absolutely. And then finally, I'm sorry, Chair, I'm looking at the Home First webpage.
Yep.
And so I just, curious, because I see that the AMI is at 80%, right? And with inflation, prices are more expensive. Things have, gotten, renting has gotten more expensive. Obviously, purchasing, has been impacted by increasing rates. Is that like a set rate? How does the HPD determine whether or not it should be increased to be more realistic and reflective of the times?
This is a great question. So we have only been able to use federal funds for this program until last year, when the state legislature amended our loan authority. Now we have the legal authority to actually provide down payment assistance. So we're trying to figure out now what an expansion could potentially look like. We've been looking at whether we expand to moderate income households. As I mentioned earlier, there are parts of the city where the HUD imposed purchase price limits actually do restrict an ability to buy in that household, even if you had the resources to be able to do it. So we're looking at those two factors particularly in terms of, now that we have the ability to use city resources, what would that look like?
And I would just add, so yesterday we just relaunched our homeowner informational webpage on HPD's site. It builds on a lot of work actually that Jenny and Stephen, who's our acting assistant commissioner for homeownership opportunities and lives CLT. So if you ever want to talk CLT, Stephen's your guy. So it's we had a couple years ago put out our homeowner manual, which many of your offices were key in getting the word out, got into the hands of thousands of people, both hard copy and digital. We have now revamped and expanded that resource manual. It's going to be coupled with the expansion of the homeowner help desk. And the key here is that as an individual homeowner going to that website to find out, or a prospective homeowner going to that website to find what training, what classes are available, what city and state resources, because the city has a down payment assistance program, but also the state has a down payment assistance program up to $100,000. So this is us working together, and then focused on the technical assistance moving forward, calling our homeowner help desk. There is someone who will make a referral to a technical advisor where they'll talk through your problems and figure out what the right referrals will be. And I know that there are additional programs coming out of our work with the council as well. So we're appreciative of the funding and efforts and investments you're making toward helping prospective and current homeowners.
No, I appreciate that. Could you tell me what my final question, what the Home First program funding is? What is the funding for that program?
What are we using right now? So we're using home funds right now. We can now use capital as well. So we did put $5 million. There's $5 million in the budget this year to be able to expand what we can do in the home. So we added, I think we have 10 million overall in home funding. We added 5 million in capital this year. We are hoping to be able to serve more homeowners, and we're trying to figure out now if we also expand to moderate income households. It is up to $100,000 that is available per first-time home buyer.
And if the message hasn't come through, in addition to LIHTC capacity, federal support for increased home funds would be great.
Yes.
So we'll make sure that we're letting you know about the things that we're pushing our federal partners on and could use support.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna allow Councilmember Savina Brooke Powers to ask the last question.
My last question. I promise. So, my understanding is there's federal funding through HUD that trickles down from the state to the city. Can you just tell us how much money the city received and how much of that has been used to create homeownership opportunities?
So
that was a part of the money we used for Ocean Crest, or we're looking to use for Ocean Crest. So I just would like to know how much the city has received, how much of it has been committed already out of that pot.
Okay, so we use home funds to federal funds to fund our down payment assistance, and I need to double. I think we have 10 million in home funds this year, which is an increase, but folks are double checking. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it was an increase that in home funds at the local level. There's only so much home that New York City gets, and so we also use it to build senior housing in New York City. In fact, that's one of the major sources for our senior affordable rental assistance program. Those are the two main uses. Is
that the same pot we're talking about? Because this is specific. My understanding it was for home ownership.
Right. I think it's the AHOP, the state AHOP program. Right?
So on the federal level, we're using home. That's for down payment assistance. We don't use it to finance real estate. We finance homeowners, right, through the down payment assistance program. At the state level, there are two main sources that we are using today in projects, and this may be what you're thinking of. There's the Affordable Homeownership Opportunities Program, which is $400 million at the state level. We expect a portion of that to be allocated in New York City to support particularly open door projects. And then in addition to that, there's the AHC funds, the Affordable Homeownership Corporation, which provides assistance to home buyers depending on their income, and also helps us support our affordable neighborhood cooperative program projects. So those are the two programs where most of that state money is flowing in. The state also, as Ahmed mentioned, has a down payment assistance program. We separately administer ours and theirs, and so those are the main sources.
And all the money is being used up.
Yes, there is. We would welcome additional state resources and federal resources. We could use more.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I want to thank you both for your testimony, and there's some follow-ups on some of the questions that you did agree to follow up. We're going to begin with our public testimony, so we'll allow the panel to exit, and then the council will bring up the first three members for public testimony.
I didn't even see.
For those of you still with us in the room, people who have signed up to testify, we're calling Alicia Habib, Jamie Smar, Brendan Cheney, Is that Alicia Habib and Jamie Smar? Are you Jamie Smar or Brendan Cheney? Jamie Smar's not here. Do we have Anthony Coker? Start with Alicia Habib. 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, I'm Alicia Habib. I want to thank the Land Use Chair, Rafael Salamanca Jr., and the rest of the committee for the opportunity to speak. Thank you. I'm a HUD-certified pre-purchase housing counselor at Chaya CDC, which was founded over 20 years ago to address the housing and economic needs of low-income and immigrant South Asian and Indo-Caribbean New Yorkers. I support first-time homebuyers through group education, one-on-one counseling, and housing resource fairs. This year, I've seen 89 first-time homebuyers. However, only 6 clients were able to close on a home. 4 of those clients were only able to close using the Home First Down Payment Assistance Program, 2 of which had won the Affordable Housing Lottery, as well as 1 had purchased a co-op. Many clients, including those with sufficient savings, excellent credit, and steady income, are frustrated about their inability to begin their home buying journey due to the lack of affordable properties. It has become increasingly difficult for first-time homebuyers to find properties that qualify under the HPD grant purchase price limits. For instance, for a single-family home in Queens, the limit is $684,000. The assistance the city provides to go towards the down payment and closing costs is not enough until there's an increase in affordable housing as well. My clients continue to mention that they want to buy properties in their communities, but it has become unaffordable. They have to shop for properties in neighborhoods they aren't familiar with, that are not close to resources that speak their languages. And If this continues, these communities will diminish. And New York City, the best part of New York City is the diversity in our communities. The passage of this bill, Intro 958, will make it possible for our clients to achieve their dreams of becoming a homeowner. Setting aside part of the municipal budget to increase affordable housing opportunities is critical for our first-time homebuyers. It will also be able to stabilize New York City and keep our multi-generational families together. So I have more to say, but I'll submit the written testimony as well.
Brendan Cheney.
Good afternoon. My name is Brendan Cheney. I'm the Director of Policy and Operations at the New York Housing Conference. We're a nonprofit affordable housing policy and advocacy organization. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. So I've submitted my full testimony, but I'll summarize here. First, we want to thank Speaker Adams for her leadership on affordable and fair housing, including her work on the Fair Housing Framework, adding resources for affordable housing, including an additional $2 billion in this year's budget, advocacy around the expansion of city HEPs, and a focus on affordable homeownership. We applaud the focus on affordable homeownership. We have a history of housing discrimination in the city and nationally, which has led to a racial homeownership gap where white New Yorkers' homeownership rate is 41%, for Black New Yorkers it's 27%, and for Latino New Yorkers it's 17%. Supporting homeownership opportunities can help repair our history of housing discrimination, but this will require a comprehensive strategy that includes funding for new construction of affordable homeownership, while maintaining a commitment to preservation of existing homeownership, increased down payment assistance, and conversions of existing rental to homeownership. Both of these last two are efficient ways to get new homeownership, while also maximizing the impact of tax incentives like the 485X program. While we support the goal of expanding homeownership, we have concerns about HPD's ability to consistently meet the targets set as a percentage of units financed, and about challenges related to the cyclical nature of the housing market. Housing supply available for down payment assistance, interest rates, lending practices, and projects in the pipeline for new construction and conversions will vary greatly year to year. While the bill calls for an average over 5 years, housing cycles still make it a challenge to meet percentage goals. We're also concerned about HPD's significant pipeline of projects already waiting years for financing, including both rental and homeownership projects. So given the extent of the housing crisis, we recommend in lieu of percentage targets that the council require HPD to set annual unit production targets for both rental and homeownership for the remainder of the 10-year housing plan. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. We're happy to answer any questions.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Coker, and I'm a homeownership program manager at Neighbors Helping Neighbors, a HUD-approved housing counseling agency in Brooklyn that promotes racial justice while empowering low and moderate income New Yorkers to fight for, secure, and maintain quality housing and build financial assets. I'm testifying on behalf of NHN and our parent organization, Fifth Avenue Committee. Affordable homeownership is a critical component of our strategy to ensure long-term housing stability and economic equity within New York City. As you know, recent data indicates that only 3% of new units funded by the Department of Housing Preservation and Development have been dedicated to homeownership since 2014. As a result, a critical tool to address the racial wealth gap and to stabilize communities across New York City is left untapped. House flippers and corporate investors are increasingly taking what little supply remains of affordable purchase options for low and moderate income New Yorkers. And of course, mortgage interest rates have also negatively impacted low and moderate income residents' ability to purchase starter homes and climb the economic ladder. As a housing counselor for the past 8 years, I've seen that this dream is still shared by many Black and brown New Yorkers, and there is a pressing need to enhance support for these first-time home buyers to help them overcome financial barriers to purchasing their own homes. In our survey of NYCHA residents, 98% identified homeownership as a goal. We don't live in a city of tenants and owners. We share similar goals. Fifth Avenue Committee supports the proposed legislation to increase HPD's support for homeownership to 6% in the coming years, but that must not come at the expense of funding the pipeline of existing affordable housing projects, many of which have been waiting 4 years for necessary subsidy to be built or renovated. Fifth Avenue Committee, through its housing development projects, is aligned with the city's goal of increasing access to affordable housing for low and moderate income residents. Through our projects, we have created 1,400 units of affordable homes and have an additional 2,000 homes for LMI New Yorkers in our pipeline. That 2,000 unit pipeline includes over 60 units for first-time homebuyers, but more support is needed. To further underscore the needs to fully fund the existing pipeline and the requisite HPD staff needed to advance it, FAC was recently told by HPD that they couldn't assign a project manager for a substantial rehab project for at least 18 months. An increase in affordable homeownership will help working families build long-term wealth, create stable communities, and build economic resilience. Homeownership creates the stability that children need for academic success, and it greatly reduces household stress where children again can be impacted. Owning a home can create a financial buffer against economic downturns in a city like ours with high living costs and economic fluctuations. Any increase in funding coupled with this, the work of nonprofit community, will help communities of color remain in place, which should be a key objective for our city. We urge the City Council to pass this legislation so that more families can realize the benefit of homeownership while ensuring the existing pipeline of affordable projects at HPD is fully funded in a timely fashion. I'm sorry I went over.
Thank you. We will next call Margie Brown, and I have a card for Jamie Smar. Jamie Smar. And for anyone else from the public in this room who wishes to testify, please see a sergeant at arms and complete and submit a speaker card.
Yes, I do.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Margie Brown. I'm Executive Director of UHAB. Over the last 50 years, UHAB has empowered low and moderate income residents to take control of their housing and become homeowners in the buildings where they already live. As firsthand witnesses to the transformative power of homeownership to revitalize neighborhoods and stabilize lives, UHAB is thrilled to see the Council's interest in bolstering the city's homeownership. Specifically, we support a focus on preservation and the inclusion of low-income New Yorkers in the homeownership plan. Preservation is the most cost-effective way to create and sustain homeownership on a large scale and is also the most impactful approach, reaching deeper levels of affordability and ensuring that low-income New Yorkers have access to the security, empowerment, and intergenerational wealth building that homeownership provides. The city's aging and distressed housing stock is a crisis and an opportunity. By investing in homeownership through preservation, we create a pathway for tenants in distressed rental buildings to reclaim their housing as permanently affordable quality homes. Households living in these conditions are overwhelmingly low-income people of color, systematically excluded from traditional homeownership opportunities. Transforming substandard housing into quality housing and housing security into homeownership for the communities most in need accomplishes so many of our shared housing goals and achieves housing justice like few other homeownership models do. Over the last 2 years, UHAB has received outreach from over 100 tenant associations across the city who are interested in purchasing their rental buildings and transforming them into cooperative homeownership. Increasingly, we are also hearing from building owners looking to offload failing or unprofitable rental housing through tenant purchases. The collapse of the Signature Bank portfolio has... Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I do just quickly want to say that investment in the city's existing affordable homeownership, specifically low-income cooperatives, is another key component of ensuring that we're expanding homeownership opportunities and not losing existing homeownership as fast as we're creating new. Thank you so much. I encourage you to read the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will now turn to remote testimony. We will hear from, in this order, Matthew Dunbar, who will be followed by Jamie Smar, then Moses Gates, Kevin Wolf, and Yoseline Janau Estrella. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. And once again, anyone in this room who wishes to testify in person from the public, please see a sergeant and submit a speaker card. Matthew Dunbar.
You may begin. You may begin.
Matthew Dunbar, if you can hear me, you need to accept the unmute request in order to testify. All right, we're having a technical issue where we cannot hear you, Mr. Dunbar, in this room. I understand that we are getting audio on the Zoom. Mr. Dunbar, we're going to come back to you. We're going to try Jamie Smar next. Apologies, Mr. Dunbar. We're having a technical issue if Jamie Smar is available. And we need for you to accept any unmute request if you have one in order that we can hear you. Can you say something so that we can see if we can hear you in here? Okay, we also cannot hear Jamie Smar, if that's Jamie Smar. Please stand by.
This is Chief Sergeant at Arms Rafael Perez on the Zoom. Could the host please check if they can hear us? Okay, so clearly I see you unmuted. You can hear us, but we can't hear you. Thank you. Where's the iPads?
For the remote online panelists who have signed up to testify, if you can hear me, just letting you know that we are attempting to deal with a technical issue in the room. Please stand by, and we appreciate your patience.
You need me to test? Let me know. Are you able to hear it on the computer? Can you hear them on the computer? If worse comes to worse, I'll put the microphone on the computer so we can hear them. Can we do that? check it out. Thank you. Can the host please confirm that they're hearing us? Thank you. So I can put the mic right up next to it, so this way we can hear it over the speakers, and then they can speak on the mic, because they can hear us. We can't hear them. If we can hear them, then we're good to go. Well, let's do a test. Let's do a test with the host. Let me know when you're ready. Where's the speakers on this? Can the host please confirm that you're hearing us? Thank you. please confirm that they're hearing me? Thank you. They're ready to call. Can the host give me a 10 count on the microphone, please?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. Call the first witness.
Next, we'll hear from Matthew Dunbar. Mr. Dunbar, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much. My name is Matthew Dunbar. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Habitat for Humanity, New York City and Westchester County. And I would like to thank the Speaker, Chair Salamanca, and the entire committee for your passion and enthusiasm for affordable homeownership, the mission that our organization has been committed to for 40 years, serving over 2,600 families with our home building and preservation programs. We want to express our support for this bill and the goal to meet a 6% goal of homeownership financing in the overarching goal. However, we do have a couple recommendations, including lowering the floor of families served down to 50% AMI so that organizations like ours who are committed to serving low-income families will be able to serve and count those families within the target goal when economically feasible, as well as potentially adjust the internal targets to allow for more flexibility for HPD to reach the goal by utilizing a more diverse set of solutions to create these homeownership opportunities. We believe that this 6% goal will create incentive for a comprehensive affordable homeownership strategy that would focus on converting rental units, light-tech buildings, and other assets in order to achieve these goals and create affordable homeownership in a more economically efficient way and a scalable way that will increase the number of homeownership units across the city. I'd be happy to submit in writing. As I'm legally blind, I can't tell if my time is up. I will submit a full briefing in writing that will elaborate on various policies and strategies that the council and the city can take in order to create that comprehensive affordable homeownership approach. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. And next we'll hear from Jamie Smar.
Hello, Jamie is testing audio.
Yes.
Speaker Adams, Chair Salamanca, members of the committee. My name is Jamie Smar. I serve as CEO of the New York City Housing Partnership, a public-private intermediary created by Mayor Koch in 1983 to help revitalize New York City neighborhoods with affordable homeownership. Since our establishment, the Housing Partnership has created more than 35,000 homes in the 5 boroughs. The majority of these partnership homes resulted in the creation of a new generation of predominantly Black and Latino homeowners. We continue to support affordable homeownership in New York City as a fundamental pathway to wealth building. The Housing Partnership supports Intro 958. At the same time, I would urge the council to go beyond the scope of this local lawmaking and take a more comprehensive approach to New York City homeownership construction. The focus cannot solely be on HPD's annual capital appropriations. We also need the following. We need tax incentives. The state legislature allowed the 421B statute to expire. 421B was the primary tax incentive for 1, 2, and 3 family home construction in New York City in the 1980s and 1990s, when the city was literally creating thousands of affordable homes for purchase each year. 421B is no longer a legislative priority of the city, so the legislature allowed the program to expire. We need an uncomplicated, meaning easy to administer and to implement, tax incentive that is targeted to making first-time homeownership cheaper. And that is exactly what the 421B program wants achieved. Second, affordable new home construction is expensive and requires cheap available land. Greater attention needs to be paid to making city and state-owned lands available for homeownership production. City-owned lands, and here I also include NYCHA and Department of Education.
Time has expired.
The balance of my testimony I've submitted to you for your consideration, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. I apologize if you cannot hear me. 1 second.
You can go ahead.
Mr. Gates, please go ahead and feel free to give your testimony. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. My name is Moses Gates. I'm Vice President of Housing and Neighborhood Planning at Regional Plan Association. We're a nonprofit, non-governmental civic group dedicated to furthering affordable housing, the environment and energy policy and transportation in the tri-state region. I want to express my support for this introduction and note a few points about home ownership and the need for affordable home ownership in New York City. We hear a lot about our 1.4% vacancy rate here in New York. The home ownership vacancy rate is also at its lowest point ever, 0.77%, lowest since we've started the Housing and Vacancy Survey. And so the need, it has never been greater. And I wanted to point out a few things about limited equity programs, which are a wonderful balance between making sure that homeownership stays affordable and still allowing households to build wealth. In 80% of AMI, after 30 years, an 80% AMI household owning a two-bedroom apartment under a pretty conservative underwriting scenario would get about $440,000 in equity in year one dollars, while still maintaining that apartment is affordable to 80% AMI folks going through the future. So I encourage the council to focus on the provision of limited equity opportunities. It's wonderful that down payment assistance is such a focus of HPD, but in order for down payment assistance to work, production and housing production needs to come along also. We can do that by passing City of Yes, with its focus on smaller buildings, more likely to become naturally occurring cooperative, affordable cooperatives and condominiums. We can do it by revamping the 485X tax incentive, by making it based on sales price and not assessed value, which gives the developers more certainty that they'll obtain it. And we can do it by more of a focus.
Time has expired.
In our process, such as by LIHTC conversions and other new programs. Affordable home ownership is one of the big successes. As our last panelist testified,
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Your time is up. Please feel free to submit the rest of your testimony to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov.
Okay, thank you very much.
And next we will hear from Kevin Wolf.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? Great. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Thank you.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Wolf. I am the Deputy Director for Advocacy and Public Affairs at the Center for New York City Neighborhoods. I first of all would like to thank Speaker Adams, as well as Chair Rafael Salamanca for holding this hearing today. And I would also like to just acknowledge the leadership, Speaker Adams, that you've had on questions of homeownership, whether it be the estate planning initiative that you pushed forward, as well as supporting the the work that we do with foreclosure prevention. And now this hearing today in new homeownership creation is extremely important. I did want to we have a full testimony that we're going to be submitting, but I wanted to highlight two things. First of all, you've heard today from HPD how hard it is to develop new affordable homeownership, but that is precisely why we need the targets that you've outlined in Intro 958. We're hoping that these targets can spur the capacity for new development and new tools in New York City's homeownership market and our ecosystem. But given that it is hard, without these targets, we'll just continue to do what we've been doing up until this date. The second, and of course, Moses, he laid out, in detail the numbers, and he's really an expert on that. So I'm not going to go through that, but I did want to just say for the second item, we are working on at the center, Black homeownership and the widening racial wealth gap and homeownership disparities in New York City. And so this new legislation is a part of a strategy to increase pathways for renters to become homeowners by increasing capital spending for homeownership construction, by promoting new policies to create homeownership units at the city level. And then finally, as HPD has mentioned, by making sure that existing homeowners can stay in their homes through the Home Fix program, through your support at the City Council for foreclosure prevention work, and providing housing counseling and legal services to avoid scams. Without further ado, I will turn it back over and submit the balance of my testimony to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Once again, you can submit your testimony to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And next we will hear from Ms. Estrella. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
Time starts.
Thank you. Creating affordable homeownership for low to moderate income renters and developing homeownership opportunities are not mutually exclusive. They can work hand in hand. Thank you to the council, and thank you for Speaker Adams for your leadership, and Chairman Salamanca and the entire council for thinking this through and for providing these strategies that New York City can offer comprehensive approach to housing stability. My name is Jocelyn Henao Estrella, and I'm the Executive Director of the Tiny but Mighty NHS of Queens. Every year we serve over 8,000 of our vecinos, of our neighbors, with the tools that they need to provide for affordable homeownership opportunities, rental counseling, and for them to stay in their homes. We are truly supportive of this legislation, and this is going to go ahead and it's going to create, it's going to build a generational wealth for our communities. The lack of affordable homeownership options really truly hampers our neighbors. Our NHS of Queens mortgage-ready clients wait sometimes even 2 years for suitable properties. And often they are frequently higher than anticipated. This shortage forces our neighbors to move out of New York City and even out of the state. And the creation of affordable homeownership is crucial in creating our and keeping our communities and allowing our neighbors to stay and thrive in New York City. Over the last 2 years, I will have to share that our first-time home buyers, just in our small but tiny organization, have built collectively a $2.5 million in equity. These achievements.
Time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Test.
All right, so before we adjourn, I want to announce that all LU's items on today's agenda were adopted. Thank you, Speaker Adams, my colleagues, council, and staff members, and members of the public for participating in today's hearing. This meeting is hereby adjourned.